Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Bolt Action Reloading. In this week's episode, we're going to reload some 30-06 with the new 150 grain Speer Gold Dot and Hodgdon Varget. Stick around. Welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here and you'd like to see how I and the rest of you here make our group smaller, start now by subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell icon. That way you get notified when I post next week's video and you won't miss anything. In this week's video, we're going to be doing one of our first reloads in our 30-06 platform. I've done a video on that previously, and I will put a link up at the end of the video if you'd like to go see it out. But our test platform is going to be a Tikka M695. It is every bit of a hunting rifle, and we're trying to see what kind of performance we can get out of that factory rifle that up until now we really haven't got very many good groups out of. Our components are what you see on the screen here. I'm probably going to do a separate video all in the Nosler brass. This is actually the first time I've used Nosler brass in one of my reloading projects, and it has not disappointed so far. I don't want to dig too deep in this video, but I was looking for 50 pieces of 30-06 brass. That's exactly what I got. Pretty reasonable price and some pretty darn good brass. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Let's get into our load testing. Like I said, this is a Tikka M695 chambered in 30-06. Our barrel length is roughly 22.5 inches, and so our load estimates from Quick Load are going to reflect that today. For today's load testing, we're really not hugely concerned with group. Basically, we're just trying to find out where we're going to start finding pressure in our rifle. We ran factory ammo through our rifle, figured out that we're somewhere in our expected velocity range. So today, during our fire forming, because these are going to be the first shots on this brass, we're simply going to find out where we start finding pressure with this load and see if we can find any velocity nodes or accuracy nodes to load on. One other thing of interest, barrel time is something we're going to be discussing as we go through this project. Looking at our quick load barrel time numbers, it looks like the barrel time we're going to try and hit is 1.0349 milliseconds is going to be the node we're looking for, and that's going to be, according to Quick Load, somewhere around our max charge today. Let's get right into our load data for today. Our projectile is the Speer Gold Dot. The part number is 308150GDB. I'm just going to go out on a limb, and the 308 is going to be the bullet diameter. The 150 is going to be the grain weight, and GDB, I'm guessing, is going to stand for Gold Dot Bullet. Very hard to decipher part number, but moving down the line, the brass we're using for today is its initial firing is Nosler brass. The primer that we're going to use, because we're really hoping to get some consistent performance, we're going right straight to the top shelf primers, at least to start with. The CCI BR2 is the primer of choice today. Because we're looking to start with some temperature insensitive powders, we're going to Varget. Varget is part of Hodgdon's Extreme Series powders, so it's not going to be completely temperature insensitive, but it's not going to be as temperature sensitive as something like a ball powder. Varget's one of many people's favorite rifle powders, and so that's why we picked it for today. We've used a couple sources to validate it, but our true max load is coming from Quick Load today. It's telling us our max load is going to be at 56.2 grains of Varget with an estimated muzzle velocity of 2967 feet per second. What we're going to do for today's testing is honestly run 10 rounds, backing down in 0.3 grain increments. So our starting charge is going to start at 53.8 grains, move up in 0.3 grain increments, and max out at that 56.2 grain number. Our estimated starting velocity is going to be somewhere around 2,852 feet per second. Because we're going to be looking for pressure along the way, we're actually going to load one that's 0.3 of a grain above max load in this case, which will be 56.5 grains. So the range of what we're loading today is 53.8 grains of Varget all the way to 56.5 in 0.3 of a grain increments. Our estimated starting velocity is going to be 2,852 feet per second, and our max achieved velocity at our slightly overpressured round is going to be at 2,976 feet per second, or at least that's what the math is telling us. Now, the barrel time we discussed earlier, about 1.035 milliseconds, Quick Load is telling us is going to be achieved somewhere very close to that 56.2 grain load. So essentially, right at max, not going to be at 100% case fill, somewhere around 98% case fill today. Now, the numbers we actually calculated for Quick Load were based on a 3.34 inch estimate that I'd done prior to actually measuring the distance to the lands for our projectile when we loaded it. And I didn't rework the data in Quick Load, so it's going to be close but not exact. The actual cartridge overall length to the lands we determined for this bullet was 3.329 inches, and we wanted to have a reasonable amount of the projectile still in the case, so we actually loaded that down to 3.30 inches, or a CBTO of 2.718 inches. I would take you guys out to the range, but Groups really aren't what we're looking for today, and honestly, I'm still trying to get the setup figured out where I feel I'm getting reliable information from this. I will put the group on the screen just because I'm sure somebody will want to see it, but the velocity chart is really what we're here for today. When I show you the group, it's an unmiraculous, basically 2 MOA group. You will see that there's a significant amount of vertical in there. That is due to the setup. I was initially running this off a bipod that was jumping quite a bit, which is pretty obvious when you look at the groups. But velocity chart is what we're here for, so let's get to the velocity chart. Starting off at 53.8 grains, quick load was going to estimate somewhere around 2852 feet per second. We started out at 2847 feet per second, and at 56.5 grains, we actually, when quick load was estimating at 2976 feet per second, we actually got all the way up to 3036 feet per second. If you've been around the channel a little while, you know we're kind of looking for areas in that graph where we might actually have similar velocities or not see significant differences in there, and calling that our accuracy node. Keeping in mind, however, the barrel time of 1.035 milliseconds is kind of what we were hoping to find, and if we got a little bit over pressure, we actually should have seen that barrel time somewhere around the 2967 feet per second mark. So getting anywhere as close to that as we can along this node. Looks like we should maybe be trying somewhere around 55.6 grains. Not really a very large plateau there, but something to try if we're trying to hit that velocity node. It looks like if we loaded down a little bit further, around 54.7 grains, we can see from 54.4 all the way to 55 grains, we had a very low extreme spread between those 3 rounds. Assuming our barrel time was right, that might honestly be where we'd rather spend a little bit more time. Obviously, one of the things we're concerned with is hitting pressure, so we're going to take a quick look at the brass, see if we see any pressure signs on it whatsoever, let you guys take a look at that and determine for yourself, but no real pressure signs here that make me nervous at all. I will put a factory-fired round next to that so you guys can take a look at the primer flattening that we got with just some factory ammunition that you can use for comparison. If we would have had a little bit better setup with our rifle, I really would have liked to know how this performed. By seeing the large amount of vertical and not horizontal in there, I'm very optimistic we're going to be able to get some reasonable performance out of this 150 grainer. But as always, if you guys have any comments or questions, put those in the comment section below. Next time you guys see this combination, we'll probably be doing some multiple group load developments to see exactly where we're at. Overall, I think this is a reasonable start for a factory hunting rifle, and I'm looking forward to the progress we can make. But even if you're not reloading 30-06, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you have any comments or questions about today's video, make sure you post those in the comment section below. If you like the things we do here on the channel, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon so you get notified when I post next week's video. I hope to see you guys back next week, and until then, stay safe in small groups.